Guys, in today's video, we're going to talk about Vegeta and his Super Saiyan 3, which will have a tragic end because the Prince of the Saiyans may end up being absorbed by the new Majin brothers. You'll understand how all this happens now. But before we start, if you know someone who also likes this content, share the video. Most importantly, I'd like to ask you to follow the channel so that we can grow more and more each day, and obviously so that you can watch future videos. Now, without further ado, let's get to today's video. Before we start the video, I'd like to ask anyone who liked today's video and my content in general to leave a like on the video so that I know that you're enjoying my content and that this motivates me to bring more videos. Also, leave a comment about the video or the channel. If possible, share the video with a friend who also likes this type of content, and of course, follow the channel to see the next videos from this channel. Well, without further ado, let's get to today's video. When we talk about an arrogant or proud character, what comes to mind for each of you? In my case, what comes to mind is a character who is very powerful, who has a special power or some kind of lineage, or simply has such great power that he is above most people, which makes him practically unique. This is the type of character that comes to mind when I talk about an arrogant or proud character. And in Dragon Ball, we have a character that fits my pattern perfectly, and you must have already understood who he is. But for those who didn't understand, I'll make it very clear to you. The character I'm referring to is precisely our beloved Prince of the Saiyans, Vegeta. Our beloved and dear Vegeta is certainly one of the most proud and arrogant characters in all anime. And he is not only like that because of his title of Prince of the Saiyans, but also because of his strength and power that he has already demonstrated since his first appearance in Dragon Ball in the Saiyan saga, where he together with Nappa came to planet Earth in search of Son Goku, who he will always refer to his rival as Kakarot. Vegeta, since his appearance, has shown himself to be a very proud character for being the prince of his race. And as Vegeta says, the Saiyans are a race of warriors. All Saiyans should be proud to be part of this warrior race. But this characteristic that is so striking to the character, and that was often the reason why he wanted to surpass himself in order to honor this pride that ended up being a kind of advantage for him, also had moments when it proved to be a huge disadvantage for him, because many times his own ego ended up blinding him with his momentary strength, believing that at that moment he was the strongest among all beings, leading him to underestimate the strength of his enemies, which often led him to humiliating defeats that perhaps would not have happened if he had not let his own power go to his head, blinding him completely. One of the cases in which Vegeta ended up being defeated because he let his ego go too much to his head would be during the Saiyan saga itself, where Vegeta believed that as an elite Saiyan and prince of his race, he would never be defeated by a lower class Saiyan like Goku, and this would end up causing him to refuse to fight with everything he initially had against him. Thanks to this thought, Vegeta was pressured to the point of needing to use his ace up his sleeve, which was the Uzaru mode, where his strength ended up increasing a lot. However, at that moment of the battle, he was already very injured, and since Goku had his friends there, he ended up winning that first battle between them, which would later be just the first of many others. However, this alone was enough to hurt the pride that Vegeta tries so hard to protect. Throughout other sagas, this ends up happening again, where he thinks he has managed to become the legendary Super Saiyan and belittles Frieza. And what happened in the end? Vegeta was humiliated again and had his first death caused by Frieza, who easily eliminated him after entering his final form. This happened several other times, such as in the Cell saga, where Vegeta was visibly more powerful than his opponent and could have defeated him at that moment, but he preferred that Cell absorb No 18 so that Cell would become stronger, because Vegeta believed that at that moment he was so strong that even if Cell reached his perfect form, he would not be able to defeat him. But the result was the same as in the previous ones. Can you guys see that Vegeta has always been defeated by his ego? This can happen in Dragon Ball Daima, because Vegeta in the Majin Buu saga was defeated again by his own ego, since Vegeta ended up accepting the Majin mark so that he could finally reach the level of power that Goku had. And thanks to that, Majin Buu ended up awakening, and even though he regretted it and faced Majin Buu later, if he hadn't done that, Majin Buu probably wouldn't have even woken up from his sleep, which shows that Vegeta's greatest weakness is his own pride that makes him make many mistakes that lead him to a humiliating defeat or death. But why am I talking about all this so suddenly? It's very simple, my dear friends. You must all be following Dragon Ball Daima, and with that, you must know about the existence of the two new Majins that were created by Dr. Arinsu with the intention of being the servants that would help her achieve her main goal, which was to usurp the throne of the current king, and thus become the supreme queen of the demons after the fall of the current king. This is King Goma, who assumed the throne after discovering that the former king had ended up being eliminated by Majin Buu. The king I'm talking about is King Dabura, who lost his life at the hands of Majin Buu during the beginning of the Majin saga. We know that Vegeta, when he reaches a higher level of power, has the flaw of letting it go too much to his head, making him think that he is such a strong being that no one would be able to defeat him, and this always causes his defeat. And that is exactly what will happen at some point in the future, now that Vegeta has demonstrated that he has the ability to transform into a Super Saiyan 3, and thanks to this, his pride would speak louder, leading him to underestimate his opponents. And that would be very bad, because his enemies would not be just any enemies, but rather Majins, beings that have the ability to absorb other living beings. And this was demonstrated during the Majin saga, where Super Buu used this ability to absorb some very strong warriors, such as Piccolo, Gotenks, and Gohan, who was the strongest among the Z warriors, and he was defeated precisely because of his ego, which spoke louder after he managed to face Super Buu and humiliate him. But because of this mistake, Gohan was defeated. After this information given by me, you must have already imagined how Vegeta would end up being defeated. But for those who still haven't managed to understand Vegeta in a future fight against Majin Ku or Majin Du, he would end up being defeated by his ego, where he would lower his guard and then be absorbed by one of them, thus causing Vegeta to be defeated, and also making the Majin in question even more powerful than before after absorbing Vegeta's power, who will certainly be transformed into a Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan 3 during this fight, and this would make the Majin's power increase so much that Goku would be irrelevant to him because of his new level of power, and with that Goku and his friends would have even more problems. So guys, what did you think of this theory where Vegeta could end up being absorbed by one of the Majins because of his pride and the fact that he underestimates his enemies who seem to be weaker than him? In my opinion, this is something that could happen at any time and probably will happen. After all, Vegeta has done this many times in the past, and even during the events of Dragon Ball Super that take place in the future, he maintains this ego of his, and this makes him constantly underestimate his opponents or become overconfident in his own abilities or the power of his transformations. Guys, but now I want to know from you, are you ready for the next episodes? Comment, and of course don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Bye!